Y'all, can you hear me? Thank you very much, brother. I hear that. No, I hear that clearly. Welcome to the second anniversary of Zen. Who doesn't know what Zen is? Okay, clearly, I'm not sure if this mic's working. The reason why I asked that question is because as I'm speaking, everyone's ignoring me. Is that because I've got halitosis? It's because I'm handsome. That must be it. Because when I was a kid at school, I remember, because I got a good memories in the memory, and I remember when I was born, and the nurses said to my mum, my mum was sitting, make yourself known, mum, don't be ashamed of me. The nurses asked my mum if that was her baby, and she says yes, because clearly she hadn't seen me. And the nurse said, oh dear. What does that mean? I've never been able to understand what she meant by that. That must be it. Because everywhere I went, people said the same thing. Oh dear, it's really strange. Yes, I reckon it's because God gave me one face, but twice as good looking as everybody else. Do you reckon that could be it? Thanks, bro. Okay, sorry for talking to him and not to your wonderful selves. The lady who made the cakes, is that you? Okay, I want to make it clear from now, I forbid anybody from eating her cakes. They're mine, okay? So if she offers, smile and politely refuse them, okay? Just politely refuse. Don't get all physical. Don't get all medieval. Just politely refuse. Okay, my name is G-Man, for those who don't know. Do you all know who I be? Is this microphone working? Thanks, Rags. You're the only person who seems to be talking to me. Is it... Do people hate me? I'm not actually asked the question yet. Katisha, try it on cue. Okay, no problem. A bit enthusiastic, but hold back a little. Okay. I thought to myself, right, normally I talk and then I introduce the guests and then we have a good conversation. Everyone says what a great guest you had on the program and nobody actually compliments me. But I'm not bitter. I'm not that way inclined. So I thought to myself, I'd do it slightly different. We know it's 2 years that Zen has been around, but I wanted to give some of the Zen members an opportunity to just have a little conversation with me so they can actually explain what it means to be part of Zen. Would you mind that? Hello? Let's try that again, shall we? Would you mind if I did that? Thank you. You see, okay. If you get embarrassed because I'm actually talking from the stage, I've got this mic here, which is a roving mic. I can sit next to you and talk to you, and we can have a conversation. Or I can sit here and you can have a conversation with me. Okay, so I'll ask you the question again. Do you mind if I introduce some of the Zen members and ask them to talk? Thank you very much. You know, this always starts, every single time we do this, it starts off slow, then I stop talking, and then you all warm to the guests, but for some strange reason, you don't warm to me. See that? I'm filling up. You know, is it because I'm ugly? You're supposed to. Okay. Somebody said no. What you're supposed to say is you're not ugly. I should try it again. Is it because I'm ugly? Thank you very much. No, you're not ugly. They say as the words stick in their throats. And I thought to myself, who could I have first to actually talk a little bit about how they feel about being in Zen? And I thought to myself, the person that I should really ask, hi sis, thanks. The person I should really, why was you reluctant to talk to me? I'm talking to you. Okay, why are you reluctant to talk to me? You're not reluctant, okay, well come on. You don't want to go there. Okay, too soon, no problem. Katisha, no, she's fine. Katisha, come here. You take your time, sis, no rush. You know they don't even like me already, so you just take your time. Grab a seat, sis. Katisha is one of the members of Zen. One of the things we like to wear, as you can see, is black and white, because it kind of looks flattering on me. It's not that funny. Okay, so Katisha, can I ask you a few questions? Do you mind?
Of course you can.
I know they'll warm to you, but for some strange reason, they don't like me.
Why? Why?
You see, no. You just laughed as if to say, nobody likes you.
No, that's not true.
Okay, sorry. So, sis, how long have you been part of Zen?
Come up to 2 years now.
2 years.
Yes.
And what does Zen mean to you?
Zen means to me, it means community. It means coming together. It means a cohesion. It means working together as a team. It means giving people an opportunity. It's helping others. It means, allowing help, trying to make things happen. Sometimes it's like for instance, tonight is about a team effort coming together. And also, we like to support each other in your own personal ventures as well. So, Zen is not about the me, it's not about the I, it's about the we.
There you are. That's nice, isn't it? Thanks, Katisha. The next person I wanted to ask to come on the stage is this young man. When I call him a young man, next year will be 30 years that we've been friends. I think I think about 5 years before that, we hated each other. Maccabee, please, come. You know what I find, please grab a seat, bro. What I find very strange is they're very polite. Have you noticed? They're clapping politely. They weren't clapping politely for me, by the way. I don't know. But use the mic, bro. I remember, this is Maccabee. We've been friends, like I said, 30 years coming up. Before that, we weren't friends. We won't tell you why we weren't friends, because certain people watch the video and get a little upset and lawsuits, and then I'm back begging for bread. But we didn't like each other. Then we ended up working at the laundry together, because I don't know if you know this, you may find this very hard to believe, but I've got no qualifications.
We find that hard to believe.
We find that hard. Thank you very much, bro. You was the only. Everybody else laughed to say, you sound surprised. But anyway, I had no qualifications. So when I left school, when I was at school, they asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, my first choice, you do on the form, we go for careers. My first choice was shepherd, okay? I was born in Allington, and I thought, that I could do some shepherding in the Summerfield meat counter. Didn't kind of work out, so I ended up working at the Southern Derbyshire Area Health Authority laundrette. And that's how we forged our friendship. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And I remember I was getting married, and I needed to get to A to B very quickly. And this was the man that got me from A to B very quickly. And if the old lady is watching this video, we're very sorry that we nearly killed you on the pavement. It wasn't personal. We had to get to the church on time. So, Micah, tell me, what does it mean for you to be part of Zen, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, as Katisha says, it's about community. It's about working together with positive people to make a difference to people that need our help.
There you are. That sounds reasonable to me. Is that okay? Okay, round of applause for Maccabee.
Thank you, G.
No problem. Is the mic a bit basic? No, it's not. Oh gosh, sorry about that. The next person I was thinking of actually asking, and I caught her eye a few minutes ago, and she looked away from Damon. She looked away from me. It cut me deep, bro. Yeah, I know. And women, and dogs, and cats. But the next person I want to ask to go on stage is a lady that I call BBC. Do you know who BBC is? BBC? BBC. Come to the front. You can clap. Nope. Josie's coming later. Is Josie here? Josie. Don't be like that. This is the lady that I call BBC. Do you know why? Sorry? Oh, sorry. Do you know why I call her BBC? That's the one. Because I didn't know that this lady is a lethal weapon, right? And then she explained to me that she doesn't just do, foolishness. She can actually, what do you do? What is your discipline?
Well, it was many years ago.
Okay.
But, black belt in Taekwondo.
Really? Yeah. So can you make your foot go really high?
Yes.
Back in the day, okay.
Back in the day.
Now, I know that you're also into fitness.
I am,
Tell us a bit about the fitness thing that you're doing, because I saw a picture of you and I was scared. Okay, so tell me a bit about what you do.
Yeah, I recently competed on stage in a bodybuilding competition. Something I'd always wanted to do, so I had to diet very hard and be very disciplined, train every day. In September, got on stage in a bikini.
Well done. I'm looking to do that myself. Well, no, on stage I meant. Sorry, carry on, sis.
Yeah, I didn't qualify for a final, which would have been in Nottingham this year, but I'm going to do it again next year and go for it.
You see, because I know you're into shape and you're getting the perfect shape. I'm also into shape. The shape I'm aiming for, sis, is called round, you know, and my doctor says I'm nearly there. So there's a few more jelly babies and I'll be one myself. Round of applause for Kaz.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, if I just introduce Josie now, that'd embarrass her. And that's the last thing that I'd want to do. Even though I can see Josie burying herself deep in the chair. And I'm not that kind of person, because I wouldn't do that. Because it's not about embarrassing people. It's about showing people love, making them feel appreciated, and making them know that you want them to succeed. So, put your hands together and welcome Josie to the stage. Now, the thing about Josie is, she appears to be shy, but don't be fooled by all that. That girl has got a brain working inside her. She knows what's going on. So, there goes my nails. So, Josie, what does it mean for you to be part of Zen?
What does it mean? For me, it's a big family, really. It's just nice to get together and do good things for the goodness of the community.
Because you're also part of Zen is different groups in Zen. And what is the group that you're part of?
I have no idea.
The charitable causes.
Yes.
Yes, you see? No prompting. Now tell us a bit about what the charitable causes does. For those who don't know, she's about to explain to you.
We come together and decide really where the money is going to be spent in the best possible way for people that are either starting up business or in need or various things, really.
You see? So if you want to know more about our charitable arm, contact Josie. She just loves to have a conversation. Okay? Josie?
Thank you.
Now, two more, if you don't mind. Do you mind? Testing. Do you mind? Thank you very much. Remember, audience participation is welcome. Throwing tinged fruit is not. Okay? The next person I want to introduce is another young lady. She's been with us just recently. I remember seeing her last year. And again, it's a strange thing with the ladies. They all say they're very shy. But I don't believe them. Because when they're ready, they always argue with me. And none more so than this young lady. Put your hands together for Sasha. That's a great smile, you know, Sasha. You can see her squirming. Bless her. Now, sis, how long have you been part of Zen?
2 months, 2.5 months.
There you are.
Maybe 3.
Now, what does Zen mean to you, in your words?
I don't know. For me personally, to be very personal, I was broken, and Zen helped me to stick myself back together. And it gave me opportunities and love when everyone needs love, and that's what Zen gave me.
Bless you. So you're also involved in one of the little arms departments that we do. What's your thing that you do for us?
Social media.
Social media. So this is the funny thing, right? The guy that kind of sponsors us was commenting how wonderful the social media messages I'd gotten. Improved. He says they're amazing. And he looked in my eyes and says, well done to you for doing what you're doing. And I says, no, it's Sasha. And he went, oh, nice weather we're having, isn't it? That's his. In terms of, because I know with me, the things that I want to do is like, you know, big things. What are the things that motivate you? What do you want to do? What's in your life?
What I want to do in the future?
Yeah.
I was on the car journey here. I was talking to lovely Jackie. Where's Jackie?
In the
She's
kitchen.
probably in the back, yeah. But I was saying to her, I see Zen possibly going to places like Africa and India and making orphanages. I think there's no limit for Zen. And I said, I want to be a part of that. That's what I said. But that's my vision, personally, to help in whichever way that could be.
Bless. Sasha, thank you.
Oh,
Not shy now, is she? Oh.
can I just ask everyone to follow us at MeWeZeN, at MeWeZeN. We're doing live tweeting as well, which is #ZenTalks. So feel free to join in. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and all the above. Yeah.
Bless you.
Okay.
Thank you, sis. She's wonderful. I think the last person I'd like to call is another young lady. I remember, right, when I had this idea. I have had this idea for Zen and this type of thing for 30 odd years. And when I had the idea, I thought to myself, will it ever happen? Because as you can look carefully, even though I look incredibly youthful and young, I'm, oh dear. It's, I use compliments to make myself look this wonderful. Oil of Ulay, cocoa butter, and hair dye. Doesn't go amiss, as you can see. The hair's gone, but the dye hasn't. But I'm digressing. But here's a young lady that was with me from the onset. And I remember, there's a song by George Benson, Love Times Love. You know that song? Thank you. And there's a bit, right, when it says, remember, when we didn't even have a dime. Yeah? Brock. Now, I remember, I was saying this to somebody just recently. We used to go to Tesco's. Does anybody know Tesco's, or is that too down market for people? Okay? We used to go to Tesco's, right? And for those who don't know, the local village Tesco's used to close at, say, 10, right? And we'd go there at about, we'd scout at 9:30, and we'd look to see what we could find that was in the bargain section. I know some of you people have never been to these depths of despair. And then you'd see it, it'd be like £2.70 reduced to 70 pence. And we thought to ourselves, no, it can go lower, right? So if you got there about 10 to 10, right, that's when they were putting, it was down to 5 pence and 10 pence, yeah? And what you did, and I was saying this to the people at the group before, you'd walk into the shop nonchalantly, just looking around like you don't really care. But really, you're making a beeline towards the bargain section with your eyes. And you're looking to see anybody else was near, because you didn't want to really get into a fight with anybody for the last ham sandwich, okay? If you're Jewish or Muslim, please forgive me. I meant cheese sandwich, okay? So what would happen is you'd casually walk to the counter with your purchase, and you'd go to the counter, and it would be like, say, 10 pence. And then you'd ask the person discreetly at the counter, is it going to drop any more? You know? That's when... Can't lie, times are really, really bad. And this lady stood with me through thick and thin. I remember telling her that I'd been fired again. Before I could even finish the sentence, she would say, yeah, you've lost your job, have you? She was to put it very nicely. But we all know it was firing. It was P45. I used to carry my own cards in my pockets. See here? P45. Just in case the boss lost mine, I could always give it him and say, just give it back in the post. But she stood with me. And here we are, 2 years down the road with Zen, 17 years married, and she's still with me. Let's hear it for Jem. No rush. Sorry. Yes. Now, we've gone through a lot.
Yes.
I was going to say more downs than ups, but that's not true. More ups than downs.
Yeah.
And what does Zen mean to you?
Zen is a lifestyle. It's a part of our lives. It always has been really a part of our life. Even if we haven't sort of done it in the how we are now, but even at home we are Zen. In our everyday life, people come round, we help people as much as we can, and it's just a way of life to us. Well, yes, it is a way of life to us.
Beautiful. Would you, I mean, this is a very open question, feel free and answer this, and also feel free and use the microphone if you want to.
Sorry.
No problem. Would you, if you had the chance to not go through what we've gone through, but to end up where we are, does that make sense? Would you not have gone through it?
if you're asking, would I change anything?
No, I didn't say that. I said what I said. I thought it was quite clear what I said.
That's how it translates to me. I wouldn't change anything. The ups and the downs.
Why the hair dye?
The ups and the downs have made us the people we are today. And it's character building is a term I always use at school. And the things you go through, like I say, either makes you stronger, and it makes you stronger either way. And I think I wouldn't change anything, because you look back and think, if I've not done that, or if I'd have given up then, or if I'd have not done this, would I have been here today? And that would have been a shame if that would have been the case. So when people ask me about Zen at school or at work and anywhere, I always find it difficult. Not difficult, I said, well, how do I explain it so they'll understand, and in the short time I've got to explain? And I always say, we're like a resource centre, and you get help from the resource centres. And so, well, what sort of help do you give? I says, if there's a need, we will help. And that's the way I describe it. And if we know there's a need, we'll help in whatever way. If it's time, if it's money, if it's a lift somewhere, if it's just a shoulder to cry on, or somewhere to stay, we'll do our best. If something to eat, we'll rustle up some beans on toast. If that's all we've got, we'll just try our best all the time to help.
Brilliant. Jem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've also got to mention a few people who are here. I think it was May this year, me and David, one of the main sponsors, went to Blackpool because we like Blackpool rock. And, well, he was looking for a venue. And while we were there, we bumped into this man who was standing outside one of the venues that we were looking at. And I exchanged my card with him. And from that day to this day, even when I go abroad on holiday, every single day, that individual will text me and say, how is your family? Met him probably 3 times since that time, since May. But he's always been a very faithful person. He's in the audience, Steve. Wave, Steve. Met him, wonderful man. Wonderful, wonderful man. I've also got to say big thanks also to Stephanie Hernandez. Now, Steph and I have been friends from the radio days, and I remember when, for those who don't know, I used to work for Radio Derby, Man and Boy, and for whatever reason, they decided to terminate my contract. I'm all right. I'm over it now. I'm not bitter. No, I'm not bitter, because it was their choice. I mean, you grow out of love, don't you? Sometimes it just happens, and sometimes... Sorry. Forgive 1 minute. I'm okay. Not an ounce of compassion in the people, Not a single person giving me a tissue. But no problem. I'll continue, you heartless people. Fight the power, bro. Me and Steph, we've been on radio for the longest time. But not just that, we became brilliant friends. And in life, sometimes, I don't know what you would say what a friend is, but my definition of a friend is a person that you'd like to believe that when you finally pass over, call it what you like, they carry your coffin or help to carry your coffin. Now, this sister is solid as a rock. And I remember during the broke stages of my life again, we'd go to coffee shops and whatever, and she never let me put my hand in my pocket, and used to always pay. And she's also a member of Zen. These are the unsung heroes. I haven't got the time to go through everybody, but round of applause for Stephanie. But finally, it's too late, sis. Oh, from my head. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I can't go through everybody. There's so many other people here. There's Dawn, there's Jackie, there's Ashley, there's my mum, there's Janet. These are people. There's Rags, there's Will, there's Maccabee. Listen, the people in the black and white, they're Zen people, but they're not just Zen people, they're my friends. My old friend from when I was a kid in the 70s, Angela. You could not believe the sister is roughly the same age as me. Something wrong. I reckon she's had a facelift. I don't care. I'm saying, is this microphone working? Am I saying it out loud? I said it. I don't care what anybody else says. But let me introduce the final person before I actually introduce the guest. Now, if you know me, I don't know if people know how many brothers I've got. Do you know how many brothers I've got? Does anybody know how many brothers I've got? How many do I have? 1, okay? 2. Many brothers. Because it's not just about flesh, it's also about blood. And this man, I remember, right, when we were talking about Zen. We've been talking about Zen over rice, peas, and chicken. Every Sunday, the brother would come to the yard on his bike, and we would try and change the world from the little room that we had. And some people would come to the yard and see the yard little brought down and think to themselves, we chose to live like this, not realizing our pockets dictated where we live. We weren't the queen. So we would sit down, we would chill, and when other people were saying, God bless you with your ideas and your dreams, this man reached into his pocket and would give me, and I'm not even going to embarrass the brother, because that's wrong. He'd reach into his pocket and give me £600 a month. Is that embarrassing? No, tell it, innit? Tell it, Steve, innit? I should tell it. So anyway, right, he'd give me £600 a month and say, tell nobody. Tell nobody. And you know me, I don't tell nobody, because I wouldn't. The man told me not to tell nobody. I'm not telling nobody. That's me. So he'd give me £600. Then we set up Zen. I remember, right, before we'd even set up Zen, the man gave me the suit for Zen, the shirt, a coat, pair of shoes. Now the man don't wear rubbish, so you know that it's not pre-marqué stuff, proper stuff. And I don't know if I have a closer brother in the spirit, because this man will fight with me in everything. You know? Damon, come, the brethren. I could not finish this evening without introducing this man, because you know some people, right, they will tell you, in this world we have racial divide. People always argue it's a black and a white thing. We're black and white. You try and choose which one of us is black and which one of us is white. Don't be fooled by the color, the skin, because this man, I've never seen a person, if I ask him for something, he's giving it me. That's why I have to be careful what I ask him for. He will give me anything. If I asked him for his life, he'd give me his life. I've never come across a person that loyal. I remember Damon used to be a world champion boxer, but before he became a boxing champion, I'll tell you a bit about this man. Even though the man's got the mic and I've not asked him to say nothing because it's on his steer. He was going to be world champion. I told him that from onset. And he loses the fight, the world champion fight. And he's in the changing room. And the surgeon, this Asian guy, was stitching up his eye. I think it was his left eyebrow. And he's stitching it up. And Damon's just looking straight ahead. He's not even looking at me. He's just looking beyond me. And he says to me, I thought you said I was going to be world champion. And I said to him, don't worry. He never asked me another question again. I'm talking about belief system. Never troubled me again. And I remember a few months after that, we went to Zizi's and his family around the table. And I reached out to get the salt and pepper, even though I know it's not good for you, but you know, I love my salt. And he grabbed my wrist, and around my wrist was a little plastic strip around my wrist. And he says, what are you doing with that? And I says, that was from your last world championship fight a few months back. And he says, it's all dirty and mangy. Why don't you just cut it off? And I replied to him, when you're world champion, you'll cut it off. And did you? This man, like I said, you need people in your corner that will fight beyond fighting. This man, I've never come across nothing like this man. Round of applause for Damon. So Damon, let me ask you, because remember, we started this from long time. What does it mean to you to be part of Zen?
Means my life. It means we're trying to change everything around us for the better. It's not small. This is everything. We have this concept and this crazy idea that we think we can change the world, and it's going to cost us my life to do it. So for me, I gave my life up a long time ago to God. And This is beyond what we see here. This will cost me everything. I give it my everything. It's about changing the tyranny that we see in the world as we see it today. So this is a wonderful forum for us to speak, but it's way, way more than we see here. That we live in a very dark, horrendous world that nobody stands up anymore. All my heroes, if I dare say that, I was talking to Rory today, were all black. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali. Everybody I feel, even in singing, felt Bob Marley, felt they had something to say, were all black, of colour, because there was a struggle in that. I feel the struggle in the world, and I don't want to live in a world that I'm not doing something about it. So I want to stand up and fight, and I believe God is waiting for people like us to stand up as a beacon, which is way more than just giving a bit of money. We have to give our lives for this. There's people suppressed and oppressed by a regime that they don't even know exists, by people who think they have more. You can't stop love, man. Love is the purest, most beautiful force in the world. And so Zen is love. Zen is a channel for the love of God. And if we can be a positive receptacle, then we can leave this world a better place. And if not, then we die trying. But it ain't going to be without a fight, that's for sure. And this leads on beautifully, because this is a fellow soldier here. Beautiful. Spent half the day with him, and our meeting was so God-given. This is another beautiful, beautiful human being that I think has found his home tonight. So for us to speak like this, it touches my heart so, so much, because he's got a lot to say, man. And he's a very bright, articulate man.
Oh dear. Introduce him.
Yeah. I'll have to stand. I'd like to introduce my very good friend and someone who I look up to and I'm touched and blessed to have met. He's Mr. Rory Lamont.
Have a seat, Rory. Thank you, Damon. By the way, before we actually start, underneath your seats there'll be like reaction things you can fill in. Don't use them to actually burn spliff. Fill them in, and it'd be appreciated. Rory, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. I just want to say I'm amazed by what you guys do and what you stand for. I think the world needs more Zen, and you guys are the pioneers, and trying to start a change. So yeah, thank you very much for having me here, and I'm not sure I'm going to live up to the introduction that Damon gave me, but I'll do my best.
So, for those who don't know you, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a retired professional rugby player. I retired a year and a half ago. I started my professional career in Glasgow 10 years ago. 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And went from Glasgow to Sale Sharks in England, then to Toulon in France. I was born, go back to my birth, I was born in Scotland. I'm a Scottish lad. Sort of moved to England. My parents split up when I was sort of 10 years old. Moved to England with my mum and my brother, and that's kind of where the rugby interest in rugby developed. And yeah, it's kind of been like I guess the first 30 years of my life was dedicated to rugby, and now I'm in a new phase of life and had all the childhood dreams were met and reached, and now that part of my life is gone. And I'm excited for this new phase of life, and looking forward to get myself involved in something significant now, something involved in the field that you guys are doing. I want to help make a difference. I've been trying to figure out my exact path and where my talents lie and how I can assist doing that. So it's a work in progress, but I feel like I've found the right people.
Good man. We feel the same. So, going back, Rory, you said that, kids have dreams, and you dreamed of being a rugby player. Okay? Now, how high did you go? How far did you go in your dream?
Well, I reached my destination that I'd set as a kid was to play for Scotland and play for Scotland in the World Cup. It's kind of what I dreamt of since, pretty much from the age of 8 or 9, and it was something that I was dedicated to and just set, all my goals were rugby orientated, and it kind of consumed everything, and I put everything else on the back burner, and I managed to achieve it. In 2007, I went to the World Cup. It was in France, and it was a bizarre feeling, to be honest. It was, it is the realization of your dreams, and then you kind of achieve it, and you kind of, there's a little bit, just something not quite there, something missing.
Why?
I don't know. I'd spent like my whole life like devoting myself to this goal, and I achieved it, and I didn't feel any better. I didn't feel any more complete. There was still a hunger for something. I didn't know what it was, but it just, and thereafter, I kind of felt probably a little bit of a separation from rugby. I took a step back from it. I stopped defining myself and my success by how I was performing in my profession, in my job. I started seeking other avenues, and learning about the world. And I still gave it my all as a professional athlete. It was my duty, and I still, got pleasure from rugby, but it wasn't the answer that I was looking for.
So even when you were, say, voted player of the tournament, that was still nothing?
Well, it massaged my ego. My ego loved the whole thing about rugby is it, and being a professional sportsman, I achieved my hopes and dreams from my childhood hopes and dreams, also the dreams of my parents who were, obviously mad keen for me to do well in that sport. So it was so nice making my family pleased, my friends pleased. It masked over a lot of my childhood insecurities. It kind of just made me feel special. It really does. Everyone's telling you that you're special, and you start earning good money, and all the materialistic things are in abundance, and that kind of works for you for a while. It does something. You feel, but it's fleeting. It doesn't give you deep satisfaction. And once I finally got my goal, which is 4 years into my career, achieved, played in the World Cup, and I didn't know what it was I was looking for, and I kind of went through a big change in myself on a personal level, a bit of an awakening, I suppose. Because once I'd reached all the goals that society had told me were valuable, and I had achieved it, and I didn't feel any better, didn't feel any happier. I realized there was something missing still, and I needed to find it, but I didn't know what it was, and I started to learn that the world's digging into what's going on in the world and finding out it's very different to the way I'd been told it was.
Okay, before we go a bit further into your looking deeper into how the world is, let's go back a bit. So you go to the tournament 2007. What age were you then?
I must have been 25 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fairly young.
It is fairly young to achieve the whole goal that you'd set your life up for. Yeah.
So you get there, you're player of the tournament. Is that the tournament you're named?
Well, I was voted Scotland's player of the tournament,
right.
which is which was a big accolade,
of
and
course.
it was. I was very, very pleased to have achieved that. Yeah, like I said, inflated my ego quite nicely.
Where I'm coming from, when I was, younger, I was the egg and spoon race champion, and a lot of kids in the class were jealous Was there any jealousy in the Scotland camp when you was player of the tournament? Are they comparable?
I don't know, because probably not, because it was voted by the press.
Okay.
And no one really values what the press have to say anyway. So, there was... no, I don't know. I don't know if there's any jealousy. I certainly didn't feel it. It's just one of those things. Each game someone gets man of the match, and it'd rarely be me. So, and I was never really jealous of the people that were getting the man of the match. So, no, I don't think so. The rugby boys they're pretty good people, and humble and have a lot of loyalty to each other. And generally, we celebrate when one of our brothers is doing well. Sometimes there might be a little bit of jealousy, but it's just healthy competition, I would say.
And what I find strange, you may be able to explain to me, you guys give it everything on the pitch, sometimes go over the top, and at the end of the match, you're all cool again. How do you do that?
Yes, it's a strange culture that we have in rugby, that we will literally, knock each other apart, and guys will, even fight, and but it's rugby's like a simulation of war. It's sort of modern day gladiators, and there's a few sports. Boxing's one of them, and I think rugby's another one that simulates that sort of gladiator sort of scenario. And when the guys are in it, and this is what you're paid to do, you treat it like it's life or death, and guys will do things to each other that you wouldn't normally do. But there's a beautiful culture in rugby that we have, that in spite of what goes on in the game, you step off the pitch and there's a lot of camaraderie and sort of banter with the competition, the guys that you've been playing against, and there's a great social aspect when you step off the pitch, and it's something that I'm very privileged to have experienced, at the highest level. Okay,
so you're 25, and you've hit the pinnacle. You've achieved everything you want to achieve in terms of the game.
Yeah, that was it was certainly, it was my main goal had been achieved.
So you're not 25 now. You're 31, 32.
32 now.
32. So how do you survive for the next X amount of years, 7 years? What goes in your head? What motivates you to get out of your bed every morning?
Well, it's been a really tough transition for me. And I can say that I'm in a very positive place now, but it's a year and a half since I retired, and it's been the toughest time of my life, without a doubt. But in an existential crisis, trying to find meaning about where do I want to go from here, and slipping into the rat race, it was such an unappealing prospect for me. I'm privileged to the point where through rugby, that I had got myself into a financial position where I had a little bit of freedom to think and to wait and to decide. And in this time, in debating, in a lot of internal debate about what to do and a lot of uncertainty, I was mourning the loss of my career. It was like a death of a part of me. Something, I'm 30 years old and I've achieved the things that the only thing that I'd ever thought about my whole life, and suddenly that's gone, and that part of me's dead. It's like, oh, who am I? My whole identity was in rugby. And so that was really troubling, and I was left with a broken body, a broken leg.
Is that why you retired?
Yes, so I had to retire from a broken leg, and that was hard. That was hard. There was certainly a sense of abandonment. I was kind of pushed out the game. It was like a spent commodity, and you really do feel like that, when you're pushed out because you're injured. And so it still felt at a relatively young age. You're kind of left to fend on your own. You've been in this family, this rugby family, your whole life. And now you're still a relatively young man, and you're out of it. You're on your own, and there's no one there to hold your hand. There's no one there to give you guidance. I was left with a broken body, unable to leave the house for 6 months. Really, I was in a bit of a predicament. And
is that depression or?
Yeah. I was, I was looking back now. It's probably depressed for a couple of years, but really sort of in a deep depression for over the last year, and I've managed to step out of it now, but it's been an incredible battle. When it was at its worst, there was suicidal ideation. You kind of you isolate yourself, and part of it was stuck at home with an injury. I couldn't leave the house, and then when you do leave the house, you're not very happy, and you see people, and you have to try pretend that you're happy, and it becomes an act, and it becomes exhausting trying to pretend that you're happy. So you naturally isolate yourself, and which exacerbates the situation. You become more depressed, and it's been a real sort of roller coaster ride since I retired.
So what about friends? And friends within rugby, friends outside of rugby, family. Were they there? Did they see what you were going through?
No. I kept it to the majority, like to my old teammates. I would keep it under wraps. So to them, I would, play an act, play a role of I'm okay, I'm fine, and I'm happy. But yeah, the people that were closest to me, they could see me struggling, and it was tough for them to watch. They tried to assist, but the more they tried to assist me, the more I felt their anxiety about me. And the more I felt their anxiety, the worse I felt. So they're trying to help me, and it's making me feel worse. Ultimately, the only person that could have helped me was me. But and that's the battle. It's hard, and there's certainly a sense of you do feel a bit abandoned. You're out the loop. You don't hear from people so much anymore, and part of it is you're thinking to yourself, people aren't interested anymore. I'm not a professional sportsman. That status has gone, and therefore people are less interested in you. But the point, it wasn't really that. It's just that if you're sitting in isolation and deliberately isolating yourself from people, you kind of you slip out of people's minds, and so yeah. But the people that were closest to me, they could see that I was not a happy man at all.
Were they worried for you?
Yeah, they were, and to a lot of the family, I tried to conceal it, but to my girlfriend and my closest friends, they could see. And yeah, that they were incredibly anxious, and I don't think they knew how to resolve it. They tried, like I said, they did their best to help, but it just, I had to figure it out myself. I had to work my way out of it.
And what would you say were the main things that were making you depressed, in terms of thoughts or actions or life?
Well, certainly the death of my rugby identity, the loss of the rugby family, and I always thought after I achieved my dream of playing in the World Cup in 2007, I kind of anticipate my my retirement with enthusiasm. I was still doing my best in rugby, but looking forward to the day of stepping out of rugby and choosing, having a new path. And I'd seen my other friends who had retired struggle with their when they retired and adjusting to life after rugby. But I always thought, well, I've stepped away from rugby a little bit. I'm not defining myself by rugby anymore, so I'll be okay. But in spite of the loss of that camaraderie, like you're seeing your brothers, your best friends every day. A big part of the battle was dealing with my broken body. I'd been my whole career, my whole life had been dedicated to sport and physical activity and just outdoor lifestyle. And I was left facing that part of me was gone, and having to accept that, I'm never going to be able to participate in any sport, or all the things that I'd hoped I was going to be able to do, and snowboard, and just get out and about, and, live the active lifestyle I'd hoped for, that was gone, and it was a daunting prospect to think that, I was going to have to adjust to this and not be capable of the things that I'd been so, looking forward to throughout my career.
Does this happen a lot to sportsmen when they have to retire through injury or age?
Yeah, I think so. I look at all my friends that retired, and they all went through a battle, and I was probably a little bit naive to it at the time, and I thought it wasn't that big a deal. And then it's only now that I can really relate to what they went through. And a lot of the guys I know go through depression, and it's tough. I had two of my Sail Sharks teammates who, they were very young when they lost their career, sort of 23, 24 years old, and sadly they commit suicide. So this is a huge problem in sport. It's a big problem in rugby. Something that doesn't really get talked about. It's kind of neglected. We kind of just, as a society, we just accept, sportsmen can go through this tough time, and we hear about sportsmen turning to drugs and, going through depression. But I don't think there's not a lot being done by the sporting establishment to try balance this, because it's business, and once you're the commodity that's spent, that they've got the sporting establishment has nothing to gain anymore by investing energy in you and seeing that you're okay with life after the sport. So this is something that probably should be addressed and changed.
One of the Zen members, a guy called who's sitting there actually, and ex-Newcastle footballer Tony, and he's devising a strategy to go into sports arenas, clubs, and counsel people who may be going through depression or whatever. So, there are some people who are trying to tackle it, but it doesn't seem that it's an official kind of, the FA or the sporting bodies aren't officially appear to be doing anything. Like, you're just commodities and throwing away once you're over.
That's certainly how it was for me. Very little support, not even medical support to, I was facing this, lost my private health insurance and facing long times on NHS, and there's
NHS.
So on the NHS, because I was left with I had an ongoing injury, and I tried to get private health insurance, but no insurance company is going to touch you when you've got an ongoing injury. So that was tough to deal with, and we live in a capitalistic society, and it's not just sport. But sport is like the rest of the business world. If there's not money to be made, if there's no profit to be made, very little action is taken, and it's a sad state of affairs that we have. There seems to be a lack of compassion, and there's lots of other people, other than sportsmen that need help. But this is something I would like to raise awareness, and I've got a friend who's a very close friend, former rugby player, who's a therapist at Oxford University, and we're hoping to try in the future go into something and raising awareness and providing a service.
Brilliant.
For retiring sportsmen and people dealing with the loss that they have to go through. So this is something that's on the horizon for me.
I remember a few years ago watching Gary Speed, the ex-footballer, Wales manager, talking on telly. I think it was in the morning or afternoon, and by evening he was dead.
Yeah, it's crazy, and this is the thing about depression is you can keep it quite well hidden, and you can keep it under wraps, and it's difficult to speak about it because you feel there's a sense of shame with depression because you feel like you've lost control of your mind, which is really it is what's happened. You've let your thoughts get control of you. And it's particularly for sportsmen where you've been the masters of your universe and in complete control, and that's the illusion that you've sold yourself. It's tough to deal with that, and it's tough to admit that you're struggling. There's that bravado culture, and it's particularly in rugby. It's like you cannot show weakness. It's a lot of people who are depressed, they become experts at hiding it.
Your explanation is probably the best explanation I've ever heard. Somebody who's suffering from depression explain how they're feeling and what they're going through. Amazing. So that was your moment. That was that period of time you was in, that depressive moment. How did you get out? What happened?
Well, I had to do a lot of soul searching, and it was hard yards. I dug into, I did basically a bit of self-therapy, look back into my childhood and try work out who I was, what I was, why I was the way I was, why, I had certain defense mechanisms like self-sabotaging behavior, self-sabotaging thoughts. I had to work out where they were stemming from, and that was, it was slow progress because I was doing it on my own. And I had to learn to forgive the people who I felt had let me down. And there were certain individuals and institutions that I felt had let me down. And ultimately, it's harboring or holding on to the anger was only hurting myself. So that was a big part of it. And there's something else I did just recently. I returned from Costa Rica, but I can't really go into the details of it just yet. But there's going to be a point in the future, in the next sort of, or hopefully by next summer, I'll be able to speak out more about it. It's something special that I've found that I think will generate a lot of interest. I've already got the BBC very, very interested in getting on board on this, and so I'm going to save it for then, but just watch this space, because the thing that I've got to talk about is something very special that can help a lot of people.
Good man. We're looking forward to hearing that. And will you come back once you've actually done your round talks to the BBC and stuff? Will you come back here?
Well, absolutely. It'll be a pleasure to
Could we do see you as part of us, by the way?
Yeah. No, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and like I say, it's I feel like I'm surrounded by like-minded people, and it's a nice feeling.
But Damon's spoken a lot about you, and I can't lie, I was getting jealous. So it's good that you've come down and shared your story with us. We're going to start looking at some of the things that have influenced you, some of the books, quotations. Do you want to go through that? Do you mind?
Yeah. I just have to remember the ones that I said.
We've got it.
There's
on the screen there, bro.
So many. So
here's one we prepared earlier.
Okay. So what?
7 influential books. Okay.
Yeah.
First one.
Okay. Aldous Huxley. So back in 2008, when I started to realise that the world was a little bit different from the way I'd been sold and kind of taught, and I realized that sort of a lot of the beliefs I was holding were just beliefs, and that they were completely inaccurate and didn't reflect reality. And I read Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, and he's talking about his experience on mescaline, which is sort of psychedelic, and how it broke down the boundaries of his reality, and just a lot of his words, and him talking through his experience just resonated so strongly with me at the time and where I was, and that just learning to keep an open mind, and not, because as soon as you hold on to a belief, you close yourself off from so much else. You're buying into this idea, And quite often it could be inaccurate, and that's what I found. In fact, I found that pretty much everything that I'd believed for so long was not a fair reflection of the world, and that's pretty much what that book was about. And the guy's a fantastic writer and very articulate, and it's a fascinating read, and I recommend it to anyone.
Do you mind me asking what your belief systems were at that time?
Well, yeah, it's just, talk about, at the time I was digging into geopolitics. I was looking at the outside world and what was going on, what our political leaders were doing, the wars, the stories that were being told in the media. I mean, I'd grown up watching the news every day, from 11 years old, had a fascination about the world, and I watched it every day, but I had no idea what was really going on. Nothing really made sense. None of the stories made sense. And but I believe that we were the good guys, and it was all we would do. Every action that we were doing in military action and intervening in foreign countries was through altruistic meaning and desire to improve the world and spread democracy and set people free. And very quickly when I found started to realize that's not the case, and it's actually corporate imperialism at work, and it's rape and pillaging other countries for capitalistic gain. It's kind of when you realize that it's just pretty shocking. And I was just hooked. Once I cracked this and seen that things weren't the way that we'd been told they were, I just relentlessly researched it, and it's been a constant learning curve ever since then. Since 2008, when I started to question things and really opened my mind up. It's been a fascinating journey, and with more revelations as time goes on, and sadly, it's not all happiness and rainbows, and there's a lot of good in the world. There is. It's important not to focus on the dark aspects and the violence and the wars, because that's not all there is. And there's been times when my mind has been so focused on that that it kind of engulfs you. And but yeah, it's important to take a step back from it, and you see what's wrong, and it's good to be aware. It's good to be aware and be conscious and awake to it, but at the same time, sitting there staring at it all day is not going to change anything.
Good man. Next one, sis.
Okay, so Noam Chomsky is an absolute hero of mine. In a world where there's so much disinformation and where corporate media pushes out, basically government lines and propaganda, it's amazing to have one of the world's top intellects, highly outspoken, and really pioneering the sort of anti-war movement, and he's pretty much the go-to man when trying to find the truth of really what's happening in society, and in geopolitics. And his book Manufacturing Consent is, I'll try to summarize it, but it basically goes into how the establishment have all sorts of different techniques into gaining public support for various interactions, invasions, behaviors. We really are the victims of propaganda, and a lot of people like to think that they're completely uninfluenced by media and government and TV. And it's a very naive approach to take. The media has incredible power, and the government, the corporate media has unbelievable power in manipulating the minds of the population and gaining support, creating division, distracting us from the things that we really should be paying attention to. And Noam Chomsky is just one of the greatest living minds, and he's dedicated his life to sharing dissecting really what's going on. And he's my go-to man when I'm trying to find out what's really going on in the world.
Brilliant.
The power of now. So through my life, even from a young age, I had a lot of self-sabotaging thoughts, a lot of self-destructive behaviors, and dwelling on the past and worrying about the future, and all the things that distract you from being content, and just letting your mind and your thoughts dominate you. And that book was like The Power of Now was like a breath of fresh air in giving me insight into the way the mind works and giving you the tools to get control of your mind and realize you're not your mind. And once you realize that you're not your mind, and start observing your thoughts, and gives you the tools to learn how to meditate, and it kind of it really helped set me free and on my way. And it's another book that I kind of came across. I think it might have been 2009 that I read that, and it just had such a positive effect on my life, and helping me just be a happier and more content person.
Brilliant.
Okay, Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock. And part of my the way I've learned about the world is that there's lots of things that are different to the way we've been told, and I think I'm fascinated by human history, and I think our history is very different from the way we've been told and taught at school. And Graham Hancock is an incredible author, fascinating human being, and he's basically spent a large part of his life diving into the hidden history of humanity, and he comes up with a suggestion, a proposition through gathering evidence and backing up with evidence that there perhaps was an advanced civilization at one point that was wiped out by some kind of cataclysmic event. And it's just a fascinating read, and really stretches the imagination. And he backs it up, and the guy is incredibly intelligent, and he backs everything up with fantastic arguments and fantastic evidence. And it really does. You read that book, and it changes your view on human history. And I think the way we look at where we've come from is I think a lot of it is guesswork. I think a lot of new evidence that doesn't fit in with the current evidence, the current belief system, gets denied and pushed to the side, and there seems to be a lot of new discoveries that are swept under the carpet because it doesn't fit in with the current belief system. And that book really challenges it, and I just really enjoyed that reading that. Yeah, it was, well, this book, I'm sure a few people have read this, 1984, George Orwell. I think we can all see the parallels in today's society of between what George Orwell wrote in this book, and we can see with each day the establishment, the current establishment that we have, edging us towards that kind of society, that Orwellian society. We're losing our freedoms every day new laws are passed that are eroding our freedoms here and abroad, and the state is becoming more and more powerful, and the corporations that are influencing the state are just gaining more and more power, and it's a frightening state of affairs that we're in, and to get a good grasp of it, that book is well worth a read, and it kind of opens your mind to it, and once you read that, you start spotting it in our culture that we have now, which I think is I think that book's a great tool, and I helping initiate a change, because I think once you can spot the techniques that are being used and the changes that are happening, you can try to initiate a alternative.
Would you say you're a typical sportsman in terms of the books you read?
Not a typical sportsman, no. There are a handful of guys that I was drawn to who were sort of on the same level, but no, sportsmen are usually just like the general population, like watching TV, and I'm not reading autobiographies and or novels or stuff, things like that. But I don't know. There's obviously a lot of the books I've read have influenced my interests and pushed me down a certain path. And I quite often would struggle for conversation of this kind of information. When I was at work. It'd usually be discussions about the football the night before, or what happened on EastEnders, or what the plans are for the weekend, which was all fine. I had other avenues for discussing this kind of stuff, but it wasn't really spoken about too much during my work.
No problem. Tell us more.
Well, the divine matrix is linking a lot of modern science to spirit. So linking quantum mechanics to your spiritual connection, to a divine presence that seems to that permeates all matter, and it's gone from quantum entanglement and things that just defy the current understanding of the universe that we have right now. And there's a lot of parallels between modern science, quantum mechanics, and Buddhism, and it's the whole book's linking that. And again, it's another read that I got a few of my friends to read it, and they were blown away by it as well. And just opens your mind up to a presence that is, so the universe isn't this cold mechanical thing that science is still trying to tell us. That there is a bit of magic in it, things that we just can't explain. And it's you read that book, and you again, it's another sort of there's a paradigm shift in the way I saw the world.
Brilliant. It's very nice. Okay. Yes, you sent 6 books, but
the 7th book,
yes,
I can't really think about. What's one I'm reading right now is Denial of Death by Ernest Becker. This book is, I haven't finished it yet, but it's already having a big influence on me, and it's talking about the way our culture and religion that we have, everything from our architecture to war to just art, is our deep fear of, it stems from a deep fear of death, and death is something that we we all kind of hide from in society. Our society, you know, that we don't like looking at it, we don't like talking about it. It's the ultimate fear. And, you know, we as a human society, we have all sorts of techniques to try distract us from this reality and try escape this scary prospect. And from whether it's designing incredible architecture that will last long after, you know, our bodies have gone, to, you know, creating a song or, you know, a piece of music, but also, you know, some of the darker things that are going on in the world, that just trying to destroy other human beings who don't believe what you believe. You know, a lot of the conflict that is stemming through religion, and, you know, the fear of someone, you know, holding a different belief to us, that we find it so threatening that we will want to destroy them. You know, and this is, you know, this is what the Ernest Becker's denial of death goes into, and it's fascinating. And I think if, you know, this could be school material and getting, you know, compulsory reading at school, I think that a new generation of people would emerge, and it would drive a big change, because we'd be aware of this denial of death as like a strong impulse in us, and we can make a change to address the things that are causing a lot of conflict in the world.
Brilliant. Okay, next one. It's 7 influential people. Okay, first one.
Yeah, Alan Watts. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's sadly not with us anymore, but a kind of a philosopher and a great teacher of life. And I discovered him in the latter part of my career, you know, of just the last 2-3 years. And he was a huge influence in getting me out of my depression. It was listening to his words, and, you know, it's accessible to everyone. It's on YouTube, and I urge anyone and everyone to listen to this man speak. Truly gifted human being, very special person. His ability to put forward complex ideas in a digestible manner that literally can change your reality in a few minutes. Just through his words, he can change your perspective. And listening to him would liberate me from my depression, and, you know, the deep sadness that I was locked into. So yeah, it just was, you know, it's like just had a profound effect on my life, this guy.
Okay.
Yeah, another man, Terence McKenna. He was an ethnobotanist, so his speciality was in plants, and actually became a bit of a shaman, and possibly the most intellectual person I've ever listened to, and probably the most interesting human being I've ever listened to. This guy can talk about anything, but his perspective on any topic, the clarity of this man's mind is another. You listen to him and you learn so much. He was a big fan of psychedelics, and particularly the magic mushrooms, and he dived into a lot of the proposed that sort of our ancestors were, the evolution in becoming a more compassionate society in the past was spurred on by these, tribal use of psychedelics, and it creates a sense of community and compassion between each other. But just every time I listen to this guy, I feel like I get a new insight into the world, and it's almost like, I would say, it's, he is in himself. Listening to him is a psychedelic experience, in terms of he changes your angle of perception of reality, And it's a guy that is just fascinating to listen to. Yeah, it's hard to do these guys justice.
And you are.
Thank you.
Okay. Your friend again.
Well, as I spoke about earlier, so I don't really need to say too much about him. And it's a daunting thought that, you know, he's in the later stages of his life, and that I don't know who's gonna, you know, to take on, you know, his role after he's gone. That there are. I've got faith, you know, with the revolution that we can see that is happening. There'll be new individuals who will be hopefully, you know, if they're half as good as Noam Chomsky at highlighting the truth of what's really going on in the world, you know, we'll be doing okay. But yeah, I think I said enough about him earlier.
Could be you.
Oh, I could only dream of being as smart and articulate as that man, and you know, he's dedicated a lot of his life to educating himself, and you know, that is, you know, some sacrifice he's made himself to become an academic in those fields and arm us with the information.
Brilliant. Brother.
Yeah. There's another guy that sadly, I mean, this man's crusade should have been taught to me at school, and it wasn't, and that's a travesty. I think the establishment don't want us to know about the work this man did, but I've gone back and listened to his speeches through YouTube. YouTube's been a fantastic learning tool for me. If you know where to look, you get access to some fantastic people that are alive today and sadly not with us anymore. But you know, you listen to this man and it's inspiring. The love and the compassion, and you know, just such a motivational speaker, and just was incredibly gifted at highlighting the insanity of what our government was doing, and you know, the insane parts of a culture where we war with our brothers and sisters, you know, just because they live in a different land or have a different color skin, and you know, he was a threat to the establishment, and you know, we you know, it's been emerged now that, you know, the U.S. government was implicit in his murder, and it's crazy that this, you know, it's you know, not talked about. It's just insane. But what a pioneer, and his work is still resonating through the world today. You know, he planted a lot of seeds, and they've grown into like some powerful trees today that are still initiating, like still driving the change. Yeah, another great teacher. And again, just these guys, it's just insane that someone like Martin Luther King and the words of Gandhi aren't pushed into the education system. You know, we're living in a world that is lacking compassion, and you know, we've locked into this, as one of my heroes, Terence McKenna, would say, says, you know, under our current society, our current culture, we're in a bid to get to the top, we're standing on each other's shoulders, kicking each other's teeth in. And I just, you know, I love that phrase, and it really is, you know, it's the law of the jungle out there. And, you know, it's sad that people who are, you know, don't maybe have the skills or talent to thrive and earn a good wage, you know, they're left to rot on the side, and you know, there's homeless people dying on the street through the cold, and it's lack of food, and you know, we call this a civilized society. It's like, you know, it's crazy to think that this, even in today's technological, you know, abundance, and you know, modern farming and this kind of thing's going on. And I think these guys like Gandhi and Martin Luther King, you know, we need to pay attention to what these guys have to say, because when you listen to them, it just gives gives you such clarity on the way that we need to respect each other, and we are brothers and sisters, and that instead of focusing on the differences and the things that divide us, just let's understand that we're all one. And this is what these guys they teach, and just never get tired of listening to what these fellas have to say, and pioneers and driving the change, and they really are. I'm very optimistic about where the future's going, and in spite of there seems to be a polarization of what's going on in the world right now, where we the establishment and are using, they have more and more techniques and more devices to create division and just brainwash us into belief in separation, and yet there's definitely a revolution happening. I can see it, I can feel it, and it's the early days, but there's no doubt there's a change happening, and a large part of it is due to the freedom of information. Without the internet and the freedom of information that we have on the internet, I wouldn't have been exposed to any of these guys. I'd probably still be watching EastEnders and everything else, and there's a change coming, and these guys are just heroes, inspirations.
Brilliant.
Just another man in the same vein. One of his statements that had a profound effect on me in 2008 was when I suddenly realized that the world wasn't as perhaps as simple and beautiful and as honest as I thought. He said it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society, and that is the truth. And just because we fit in and we do what everyone else is doing, it doesn't mean it's right. And you look at what's going on in our culture. The violence, the selfishness, the ego-oriented materialism. We're so separated from spirit now. It's people are on this quest to fill this void in their life by consuming, chasing this imaginary point in the future where they're gonna get what they want. But if they get this thing. And so the culture that we have it's not a healthy one. It really is missing a lot of love and compassion. And a guy like Krishnamurti has some great teachings, and another one like Martin Luther King and Gandhi. The more I listen to these guys, just more relief I get that I'm not insane, because there's been times that I feel pretty isolated with my views, and you try, I'm on Twitter and I push out any anti-war information, and I get accused, I get quite a violent response, and sometimes you feel like you're on your own, and everyone's buying into this. This fear mongering and fear of everyone. It's like we're all scared of each other, and walking down the street, everyone's a rapist or a mugger, or there's a terrorist just around the corner, and it's just this culture of fear, and these guys just brush it aside and just let you know that it's all nonsense. It's don't buy into it, because it's separating you from your brothers and sisters. And it's just I feel relief every time I listen to these guys.
Good man.
Bill Hicks, one of my favorite comedians, died very prematurely. I think he was 32, and a man well ahead of his time. And I do wonder what he would have been making of today's culture, and think that's probably why he departed this world. I think his frustration at seeing the insane culture that we have. I just don't think his soul wanted to be here anymore. But going to, his humor was just a brilliant man in highlighting the absolute hypocrisy of the things that we have in a culture and the beliefs, and just highlighting the real insane behaviors that we have on an individual level, and on the things and the behaviors that our government in the way that they behave. And it's the guy's got me in stitches, but also pushed out a clear message that love is all that really matters, and don't buy into fear. It's like a choice between love and fear, and that was one of his great messages. And that this life experience is just a ride, and it's a ride to be enjoyed. And there's too many of us trying to, and I don't include myself in this anymore, but too many people in the world trying to hold on to it and like hoard and dominate other people for their own selfish purposes, and that this is a futile way of behaving, because you can't leave this world with any of it. As well as being a very funny man, he pushed out a beautiful message.
So it's 7 inspirational quotes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is one that I kind of stumbled across, I think it was a couple of years ago, and this is something that we all need to be paying attention to, because it makes you very open-minded and respectful of others, and it creates a desire to be open to new information. And so the only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. And so I look at my own life, and pretty much every belief that I ever held on to has been smashed by a new revelation. And each new revelation is only held on to for a short time before I learn more about the world and realize that my views are wrong. And so it's a constant learning process. And so whenever you think you know it, just be humble with it and open to the idea that actually maybe you don't. And I think, the modern science is very arrogant about, we think we know everything about the world and the universe. And but time and time again, if we look through history, everything that we held on to as the absolute truth has just been destroyed as time reveals more truth to us. And exactly. And people were like killed for believing that the earth is round. And there's countless times in history where we try to destroy those individuals who believe something that does not match our belief system. And it's like, I love it when I find out that I'm wrong, or that I believe something and it's completely, it's just so far from the truth. I feel liberated every time that I get like a new piece of information. And so I try to be humble with the things that I know. I'm not always. Sometimes I'll try fight to the death in an argument, but I try to remind myself, no, it's just a perspective.
I'm just making sure. You used to play rugby, okay?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
just making sure.
Yeah. I had a lot of bangs to the head. I was knocked out a lot, so maybe it's...
No. I've never heard of a rugby player talk about the books that you're talking about. I'm sure the things that they would love to discuss back in there would be Pirelli calendars, if you understand me. But anyway, I digress. Next one.
Yeah, this one just is with me every day. For so long in my life, particularly since 2008, when I started realizing things were different, and I'm there so busy pointing to all the things that are wrong in the world and drawing my attention and telling everyone about it and sharing the information and learning more about it, and yet my own actions did not reflect, I was too busy trying to work out how I can change the world and like how I can make a difference. And there's wars going on, and I felt so helpless, and I could see that the stories that were being sold just weren't true, and there was a sense of frustration, and I just didn't know what I could do. And so over the last couple of years that I've realized that the change needs to come from within. It needs to be, the revolution needs to start with yourself, and that's the way that you initiate a change, in that you stop your own destructive behaviors and you be the example that you want to see. And so this is something that is with me now, and I've spent a large part of my life doing, like, motivated by purely selfish reasons, rugby was, but being a professional sportsman, it was selfish. It's a shame that we hold sportsmen in such high regard in society, because ultimately they're doing it for themselves. And I could say that about almost every sportsman. They're not doing it for anyone else. And now I feel I've got to the stage where I realize that there's no point in me pointing at all the things that aren't right anymore. It's not changing anything. I realize that I have to initiate the change. I have to change myself, and I have to take action and lead by example. And that's a fantastic quote to remind myself of what I need to do.
Brilliant.
So can everyone read that from where they are?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So this is Terence McKenna, and he says, "It's clearly a crisis of two things, of consciousness and conditioning, with the technological power, the engineering skills to save our planet, to cure disease, to feed the hungry, to end war, but we lack the intellectual vision, the ability to change our minds. We must decondition ourselves from 10,000 years of bad behavior, and it's not easy." And this is where you see the insanity of what's going on in the world, where there's something like 18 people dying every minute from starvation, yet we have all the technological know-how on how to feed the entire world over and over, but there just seems to be no motivation. And this is the burden of capitalism, where if there's not a profit to be made, and now that we have, if there's not a profit to be made, there's no action taken. And we will literally watch other countries struggle with famine without diverting any of our energy. We leave charities to take that role, and it's crazy when the governments have got all this money, and you've got all this corporate wealth, and very little is done to change. We know that it could be, like, poverty could be wiped out overnight if the establishment wanted to do it. But now the problem is we've got such an entanglement between corporations and government that we don't see any change happen. We don't see any compassionate behavior from our government. In fact, we get told there's compassionate behavior, and it's always war, and we're going to liberate, other countries, and but it's all lies. It's just corporate imperialism, profiteering, and it's sad to see that, and it's just so distressing when you get it, when you see this. It's hard not to cry, because it's a choice that is being made. And it could just be so easily changed. It's not out of our control, but we need a revolution, and it is coming. I think everyone here can feel it, and you know it. I think this is why you guys are doing what you do. And you know, just like I love seeing what you do. But yeah, Terence McKenna is, I think he's fantastic at highlighting these kind of issues, and again, just showing the hypocrisy of our leaders. You know, they try to, they act, the actors, they act like they're compassionate, but they, for whatever reason, whether they have no interest in driving change, or they're really bound by corporate interests, which I think is a big issue. And it's a clear sign that we need to get the money out of politics to begin with before anything's going to happen. And then hopefully, once the money's out of politics, we'll actually see altruistic individuals in politics instead of people trying to line their own pockets.
To go on from what you said, I was listening to a report today, and it was saying that Barack Obama has got the American government to initiate a $7 billion payment to Africa in some sort of initiative to help them. On the other hand, 14 African nations, to negotiate their independence from France, have to pay $200 billion US to France to be independent every year. Yeah, fact. Not just Haiti, 14 African nations. So you take the money out of the whole game, it's a different game.
This is it, and I think people are becoming more aware of it, and there's a resistance to the current predicament that we're in, that's building. But yeah, it's just what we have going on is just insanity, and if you pay attention to it, it is mind-blowing. And yeah, it's the driving force in myself and wanting to be the change, and try, I'm kind of sick and tired of trying to tell people that there's this, our culture is insanity, but or it's an insane culture. But people think I'm insane.
No, you're not.
And it's for saying such things, and people don't want to believe that the government, our governments are corrupt, and people want to just buy into this idea that this cozy idea that everything that can be done is being done, and the world is just the way it is, and some things can't be rectified, and it's just human nature and all this kind of stuff. There is a change coming, but we just got to try and be patient, because it's going to take a bit of time.
Good man.
Wow,
can you all see that?
Can everyone read that? Mm-hmm. Love is the only force capable of turning an enemy into a friend. So if we just have a look at what's been going on this year with, obviously it's not just this year, but you look at ISIS and what's going on, and it's horrendous. But we've orchestrated this, we've created this. There's no doubt about it. My government's previous interventions has created this, and it's bombing and war that has created this new enemy, and what's their answer? So what are they doing now to combat this problem is bombing people and just planting the seeds of future enemies. And if I had lived in Iraq or Afghanistan and my family had been killed by a United Kingdom or American bomb or a drone missile, I'd be highly motivated to fight this enemy, this imperialistic enemy. And so it's clear that, and it's quite suitable for the military sort of industrial complex, that, you know, war creates more war. It's great business. Lots of money to be made. And, you know, I just hope people in the future more and more people can see through it and start to understand that the only thing that is gonna end war is love and compassion for each other and treating each other with respect and not trying to dominate each other and profit from each other, destroy each other. It's, you know, there's a time I was on a night out and this guy wanted to fight me. Came up to me and, you know, very aggressively and very clear, was about to try knock me out, and I just gave him a hug, and it just resolved the situation instantaneously, and that's what we all need to do, and that's the way to be. You can't meet aggression with aggression. It's not gonna, you know, we've been doing this for centuries and we haven't had peace yet. War does not create peace, and so love and compassion is the only thing that creates peace. So yeah, what a fantastic quote from Martin Luther King.
Fantastic. Another Martin Luther King.
Yeah, this is something that I've struggled with through my life, is feeling other people's injustice, and you know, kind of it always caused me a bit of conflict, even in my rugby career. It's like if I felt that one of my fellow colleagues wasn't being treated right, it burnt me, and I'd speak out about it, and you know, my words weren't always welcome, but it's something that we need to understand, that it's a human family that we have, and that we are all one, and you know, just because we don't know the person that's suffering the injustice doesn't mean that we shouldn't care. Just like, as far as I'm concerned, you know, everyone's my brother and sister.
Good.
And you know, whether it's, you know, seeing what's going on in the Gaza Strip, or, you know, a homeless person in my hometown, it's my heart bleeds for them. You know, it's, and you know, I kind of feel helpless at times, and it's hard when you see a lot. There's so much injustice in the world, but you got to resolve it one step at a time. And again, this is where it comes to be the change you want to see in the world. And the work that you guys are doing here is something that I want to venture into and become a part of. Yeah, well, thanks. Thank you very much for having me here. Yeah, and I can't stand by any longer and just devote myself to my own selfish means. I wanna do something significant, and that helps other people in dealing with their adversity. Brilliant.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So this is Krishnamurti, and this is a long one, but it's something that, again, is something worth paying attention to. And I know there's a lot of religious people here, but just pay attention to the words. So when you call yourself an Indian or a Muslim or a Christian or a European or anything else, you're being violent. Do you see why it is violent? Because you're separating yourself from the rest of mankind. When you separate yourself by belief, by nationality, by tradition, it breeds violence. So a man who's seeking to understand violence does not belong to any country, to any religion, to any political party, or any partial system. He is concerned with a total understanding of mankind. And this is, you know, it stems back to, this is kind of touching into the stuff that Ernest Becker talked about, the denial of death, and that a lot of the violence in the world is because we try to destroy others who don't believe what we believe. And that's not everyone, of course, but there's, you know, there's a large percentage of the population that feel threatened when you don't believe the same thing. And and it drives a lot of conflict. And I think the importance of this is to understand there's nothing wrong with holding beliefs. That's human nature, and there's no wrong way or right way. And this is the important thing to remember. And it's just a case of being respectful and not focusing on using these beliefs to divide ourselves from our brothers and sisters. So that's just, I think that's just a really good quote, just to remind us that to just be respectful, and that our way isn't necessarily the right way.
What I like about you is that you speak without condemning. Beautiful.
Yeah, I was like anyone else. I would slip into the habit of judging others, and it's the way we're brought up to cast judgment, and but I've got far too many flaws myself to even waste my time. Who am I to cast judgment on others when there's so many flaws in myself that I need to correct? And I understand that we all walk, different paths, and there's the Indian proverb: "Don't judge a man until you walk a mile in his moccasins." And I think that's because we've all had different histories, and it all affects our histories and past and experiences affect us in different ways, and they bring out different behaviors, and some of them are bad behaviors and some are good, and but I understand that if I'd walked a different path, I'd be a different human being, and perhaps wouldn't be as aware or compassionate as I feel I am. And so I try not to. I do my best not to judge others. I think it puts you into a bad frame of mind when you're casting judgment on others, because it's you're probably just projecting your own insecurities onto other people.
Good man.
Yeah, so if you can't read that, it's Alan Watts' quote. So, you don't look out there for God, something in the sky, you look in you. And I think in troubled times, a lot of us go looking in the external for our Saviour, for something to ease our anxiety or our sadness or our depression. And it's what really is the issue. And we seem to be on a chase. Our culture pushes it onto us, but we're chasing this imaginary moment in the future or outside of us, this of happiness and contentment and satisfaction. And you're not going to find it in the external world. It's you already have it. You're born with it, but it's within. Took me a long time to realize this, and once you start to look inside, you'll find God, you'll find the peace that you're looking for, it's just something in a culture where we're all looking and chasing and hoping for this magical moment. That's where we have the thing that is going to complete us. It's a fruitless chase. You're not going to find it out there, and that's what that quote's about.
Okay, that the final one? Okay. Time is really against us, but I want to give you an opportunity to ask young Rory some questions. Anybody want to ask a question to Rory? Do you have a microphone? 1 minute, sis. Ashley. Mm-hmm.
Good evening.
Mm.
You spoke about your depression and how you didn't get a lot of support from the Rugby Society, the Rugby Association. I know that a couple of years ago I watched a documentary about clinics that have been set up for footballers who go through similar things. You spoke about other sportsmen who go through similar things. What do you suggest is a way that these clinics can be more incorporated into the field of sports and the afterlife of a sportsman taken into that channel so they get that support, speaking from your experience and your struggle?
Yeah, well, I think the governing bodies, the sporting bodies, have a huge role in this, in creating strong affiliations with these institutions. I don't think there's enough of them. Certainly, you know, there's nothing in my career. There's nothing ever talked about you know how to support guys in life after rugby. You know, sometimes there's a little bit of careers advice, but it's not just your career that is missing. There's a huge part of you know, your whole identity as a sportsman. You know, you've literally dedicated your entire life. Every goal has been about this sport. And suddenly you don't have it, and you know, it is, you know, a loss of your identity, and a huge part of you has died. And so yeah, the sporting bodies have a huge role. They need to drive it. They need to educate the players, but also I feel like former players like myself, guys who have been through it, have a duty to speak out about it and break the taboo, you know, and make it a subject that is much more approachable, and make guys realize that there's no shame in going through this, and once we get over that and realize there's no shame, and people will come forward and they will seek help. Part of the problem at the moment is no one really talks about it, and everyone just thinks they're on their own, and no one else has gone through it, and you don't want to show the weakness. So hopefully in the next few months I'll be heavily involved, myself and my friend, in trying to set something up, and I'll probably at some point get around to writing an article about my own experience and talk about the challenges that I face, and just try to bring an awareness about it, and try to initiate a change that way. And unless people speak out about it, because we know these governing bodies are business, and you know they're not going to try just initiate a change by themselves. They need to be put under pressure. And usually, you know, what I've learned is that if you know players come out and speak out about it, the media take a lot of interest in it, and the media exert a huge amount of pressure on these sporting bodies, and then you know they have no choice but to bow down and drive a change. So ultimately, you know, as someone like myself has a big responsibility in trying to change this.
Before I ask the next question, we can pass it to Dawn here. For those who are into sports and want some more support, there's Tony, who's got his own Twitter feed, if you want to get in touch with him as well, at My Bright Side. That's correct. And there's, what's your Twitter feed, Josie? Josie Counsellor?
Oh yeah, at Josie Counsellor.
That's right. Okay. Next question.
You talked about drugs and depression and even suicide for ex-sports people. What was your catalyst for going into self-therapy as opposed to turning to the drugs and the alcohol?
Well, for me personally, I've seen the damage that drugs and alcohol can do firsthand. My dad is an alcoholic, and you know, it's caused a great deal of sadness in my own life, and I've seen the path he's walked and the unhappiness that it's led to within him. Knew it wasn't the answer, and you know, trust me, when things were dark, that thought of escapism, anything to give me a temporary break from the depression, was incredibly tempting. And you know, I can completely understand how some people will turn to alcohol and drugs. There's it's brutal. Depression is just a horrendous experience, and you feel like you're trapped. and there's seems to be no give, there's no give to it, and it's just unrelenting. And so if there's some kind of substance that can give you temporary relief from it, you'd act as a crutch, then it's very, very tempting. And so I understand the nature of addiction. I know what's going on, and this is something else that we need to change in a culture, is the way we handle addiction. And it's just a symptom of trauma and sadness and depression. And so what I think, just like having witnessed it firsthand in my own family, I just knew that wasn't an option. I knew that was a path to destruction. So
brilliant. Just before you speak, just a show of hands if you want to. How many people in this room suffer from depression? Or so you see, okay, so you understand. But all the other people who've seen the hands do support the people that you've seen the hand raised. Okay, sis.
I'd like to know that. What is your occupation now? What are you up to?
Currently, I'm still unemployed. I've been struggling with my body for a long time, and pretty much housebound and unable to be on my feet for any length of time. And even going for a 5-minute walk or anything like this was beyond possibility. And the ankle is now getting to the stage where I can, it's getting a bit better. It's still far from perfect, but this is something I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. And I know I can't sit around for much longer. I'm tired of sitting around, and it just means got to deal with a bit of pain and just crack on with life. So yeah, it's and a part of the delay as well, even aside from that, is trying to figure out what I want to do. It's like people would ask, and it's like, well, I know I want to do something where I'm helping people, but I didn't know what the avenue was. I didn't know. Sitting at home, I wasn't really connecting with people or anything like this, or getting any ideas, and so I wasn't having anyone fall into my path to try guide me. But now I've got a very clear picture of the direction I want to head. I've got a blueprint for my future and my future career, and it's going to be definitely dedicated to helping others. And it's something I can't really speak about yet, but it's something related to what I'll be talking about in the summer. But it's something I'm incredibly excited about.
We wait with bated breath. 2 more questions, if there are 2 more questions. Anybody else want to ask a question? No? Going one? Oh, Ashley again. You're going to miss an opportunity, people. One more question after this.
It's not a question. I just wanted to say, thank you for speaking out about sportsmen who go through what you went through. Because when I did watch the documentary, it opened my eyes. And one thing that stuck with me is when the commentator said, failure on the pitch doesn't mean failure in life. And I hope that means something to you today as well.
Oh, thank you very much for saying that. Is this working?
Is it on? It's gone off. Is it on? It's on. No.
I'll try to use this one. Yeah, exactly. And for a long time, it felt like it was a failure, a death, and it was. And you have to go through it, and it's part of. It's a piece of my life that is in the past now, and I finally let go of it, and very much looking forward to the future. But it's something that. Even during the career, I had one of my best friends suffered from depression, and I finished my career at Glasgow, and part of my excitement about coming back to Glasgow was to try assist my friend, my teammate, in dealing with his depression. And I knew what was going on. He was defining himself by how his career was going, and that's how he was measuring himself as a human being. And all I had to do was highlight that, you know, that's your job, and yeah, you know, try your best and apply yourself as hard as you can. But geez, if you know that you're trying your best and it's still, you know, not succeeding, don't you know, destroy yourself. Don't berate yourself because of it. You can look in the mirror and know that you gave it your shot and your best shot, and you know, what more can you do? So you know, I think depression in sport is pretty common, but not many people speak about it. But yeah, that experience, that failure when you finish your career and it's gone, it's tough to accept that that's actually not a failure in life. That's just a part of your life experience that's finished now, and you've got to look forward to the future, because ultimately you can achieve whatever you want, and that's probably what the main thing sportsmen should pay attention to, is that, you know, you achieved your dream, and it's like, well, you've got to create a new dream, and you know, you've got the power of mind and dedication and capability to achieve your new dream. You just got to figure out what that is.
Brilliant. Okay, you've been a wonderful audience. Put your hands together for Rory Lamont. Rory, I have to say that I wasn't sure what to expect when this mic went off. Thank you very much. That's off there. I wasn't sure what to expect. Thank you. Yeah. I wasn't sure what to expect when Damon first suggested you. And all I can say is, well, I'm not surprised, because I know the quality of people that he has as friends, present company accepted. But I've been blown away by what you had to say, your heart and your compassion. Never lose these qualities, my friend. And we'd like to welcome you to be part of us as well. Now they find their hands. Now, all the best in what you're trying to do. If ever you're passing these ways again, feel free. Anything you want to send our way, that you want us to send on our website, whatever, ours is yours. Is that okay?
Thank you very much. No, I have a feeling that we're definitely going to be spending a lot more time together. I'm really excited by what you guys do, and I feel like it's a real privilege and honor to meet you and be a part of this. And thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Just to let you know that there's some food at the back. Before you disappear, there's some letters or pieces of paper underneath your chairs. Thank you. Underneath your chairs, fill them in as best you can. Put complimentary things about my good self, because I've got lowest self-esteem. And this is a little gift from us, Rory, to your good self. It's an empty carrier bag. There's a gift inside it. Thank you. Come select ta 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 ta. Come select ta 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 ta.